So this is what I want to ask you, because I know like traditionally, yes, you've done where people just like stay on the hard line and all that stuff. For me, I feel like your true debut. I don't think anyone's first album. I think everyone's first album is getting to the mountaintop and finding themselves, and is a burden. Like if you ask Nas, Illmatic's a burden, especially with critics. Like you got to live up to this thing that you did. So
Yeah.
there's certain burdens. However, I always wanted to know when you're turning in the tapes for Neither Fish Nor Flesh,
Hmm.
which I feel is your real first album,
Yeah, me too.
because your first album is just your life experience up until that point, and
Yeah.
you're feeling your way out. And yeah, of the two, I choose the latter. When you're turning that in, what is Donnie's response? What is Tommy's response? What is the brass's response?
Okay, first of all, let me say this some interesting things that goes down with this. Um, First of all, it's uncanny because in fact I mentioned that quite a few times for this particular project as I was promoting it, that and it's the truth, the first album felt like the finale of a life that that I was meant to finish.
Your old life. Yes.
Yeah, that I let me just see if I can explain this and see if you can keep track for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I said, I do believe in doesn't matter what we call them. I do believe in spirits of angels and other things. I do believe we're in this multi-dimensional interactive experience, overlapping dimensions and all kinds of stuff. And of course,
Yes. It's
just the
it's
way that
it's real.
just the
It's
way that
real.
our radio is got all of this capacity, but we're only focused on where it is on the dial right now, and that's our frequency of focus. So we are not aware that there's all these other frequencies going on as well. So for me, that's important because when I was 18 years old, I had an experience where I was home from basic training from the military.
Mm-hmm.
And my old room obviously had been moved into and taken over by a younger sibling. So I slept in the den, the TV room,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a dream that night. I'll never forget. It was December 8th. I was home for 2 weeks from basic training before getting reassigned to my first posting in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this dream that, like I said, my very first movie I can remember seeing was Breakfast at Tiffany's. And in the dream, I'm the age I was, 18. I'm standing in front of Tiffany's department store in New York. And in the haze, it's really early morning. And I see this figure, familiar figure walking towards me. And as he gets closer to me, I recognize more and more. And his smile gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And at one point I go, oh shit, that's John Lennon. And I'll never forget, he was wearing a white shirt, some blue jeans, and his hat, and his granny glasses. And as he get close to me, he looked like he was so happy to see me. He stuck out his hand and as I stuck out my hand, he went straight through me. Okay. These were my first heroes,
Mm-hmm.
profound influence. So I get up that morning and my mother says to me, when she sees me that morning, did you hear what happened? I said, what? She says, John Lennon was killed last night.
Oh.
I, I said, what? She said, yeah, he was shot in New York. And I said, Mom, I dreamt that he walked into me. So again, here's my take on these things. If if I agree to take some of your what you're leaving behind, I'm sure there were quite a few people on this list. Yeah, I'm going to leave you a little bit of this Beatle magic. I'm going to leave you a little bit, but you can't take that without taking the burden as well. So he had issues with his mom. He had issues, a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take some of that shit on as well, because that was also what made him him.
Right.
So I say that because, first of all, I believe that there's these overlapping experiences where that first album felt like me and John were finishing something. Okay, his car, something maybe he whatever, or I like your filter. I would like to work through you. Perfect. I'm your pen. Let's do it. Um, and it felt like I had stepped out of something that I was just always destined to step out of and into and out of. But I agree with you that neither fish nor flesh for me, and it was the most exciting time I've ever had making a record because I could just feel, in retrospect, the roots of post-millennium rock began there. And finally, I was able Mozart, the last thing he said was he had gotten a commission to be a church Kapellmeister, and all they commissioned from him was like 2 or 3 pieces a year. So he would have had all of his chance, all this time to compose. And he said something to the effect, damn, I was just getting ready to compose the music I really wanted to make. And you think like, fuck, if Mozart feels that way, or Haydn's last words being, I was finally learning how to write for horns. You mean? I mean,
That was his last words.
apparently, you know, apparently. So, for
I'm
me,
not
it
done
was,
yet. I just wow, it's crazy.
yeah. So I do agree with you that it felt like the breakthrough that was. Now, here's another situation was that before I went into the studio to make that record, the president of Columbia, CBS England, Paul Russell, pulled me into his office and wanted to show me all these demographic surveys that basically said that though I hadn't sold as many records as Michael or anyone else, that I had ticked literally every demographic box that they even keep track of, and that they had never seen that before, and it freaked them out. So that let me know one thing right there. I was seen as a political figure because, as you know, I don't have to be singing about politics if my music is bringing people together across the divides that are placed there artificially to keep people from. So if I'm bringing in bikers and grandmothers and 13-year-olds and academics and all these people that they keep, people start in power start to look at that and go, okay. Plus, they didn't have enough time to vet me. I just shot off like a rocket. So
You didn't think that was just due to let's maximize. If anything, like I could have sworn that they were like, okay, this is someone that will, I don't want to say the word replace, but you know how record execs feel like
yes, of course,
this is
of
the
course.
person that
But that's
will
all
replace
connected.
Michael as the
That's
new.
all connected. That's all connected. So that's why this is very intriguing because, when we do the book, I'll have time to extrapolate, all of this information, look at it in depth because everything is connected. And I'm trying to keep, a hold of the thread
I got it.
myself. The point is that um, they knew who Michael was. So whatever he was guilty or not guilty of, they would have known. They knew who he was. He had been vetted his whole life. He had been vetted. They knew who he was. They knew what it take to motivate him. They knew what it take to manipulate him. They didn't have that info on me yet because I came up too quick.
I get it.
And the corporation's not going to get in front of the money while the money's printing itself. They'll wait for the money to reset before they go, okay, now do we want to continue? Who is this motherfucker? Who is this kid? Okay. And but Paul Russell brought me into his office and he said, I just want you to know that the first 2 million records you bought you sold were genuine to genuine music fans. He says, after this, you become a cultural phenomenon and people are not buying the record for the music. People are buying the record because it's part of their cultural identity of the moment, that you can't say you're cool if you don't have this on your coffee table if someone walks into your living room. Have you heard the song? So, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. It becomes that kind of thing. He actually said to me, don't expect your next record or next couple records to follow the same formula. It won't. He said, because those people will come back to you. But the history of England, especially, they won't come back to you to your third or fourth project. Okay, because you're gonna have to pay for this success. Now,
Wait,
I
was he
do not
telling you that you were too successful?
he was basically saying I wasn't going to have that type of success again anytime soon because at one point it went beyond being a musical thing and becoming a cultural phenomenon that then developed steam as that goes beyond the music. So those people, the next time, you don't get those people to come right back. You get the fans.
Let me ask you an important question then. And this is kind of the theme of the slide film. And I'll ask you this.
Mhm.
Is success as traumatic or more traumatic than failing is?
Look, the bottom line is this: we all have to be responsible for the energy that we create. There are no exceptions. Society may give us a free pass based on its affection for us or our image, but karma is real, and the law is simple. We all have to be responsible for the energy we create, those who are capable of creating energy. That's just the way the universe polices itself. So the bottom line is I was going to have to pay for that sojourn, regardless of whether I had wound up on this side or that side, because there is no free lunch. Everything has a price, and you either pay in advance or you pay on the back end. I didn't have to pay in advance, well, at least as far as the industry was concerned. So I had to pay on the back end. But there was also genuine fear because I was genuine. I really believed that I was given the power of transformation and I could help, as George Harrison said, people say, think for yourself. We understand that the state, Mount Olympus, creates us demigods in order to program the people as to what is expected of them or how they're expected to be in order to be members of a society, a governed society, a civilization, a community. So obviously, it is not in the best interest of any kind of organization with power to promote the power of someone who is not in turn promoting them.
A team player. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, I can't be that naive. Like, they came up against me. I wasn't trying to bring down the building. I was just saying, look, I'm who I am and I'm not changing for some bullshit. I'm not going to become a black artist for you bitches. I won't. You can argue for days how black a person I am. I have no beef with none of that, whatever. But I will never consent to being a black artist because and I know what that means. And you know that unless you were Stevie Wonder and you had all of Motown telling you do what the hell you wanted, you know exactly how limiting and handcuffing that was. So I was never interested in being a black artist. I was never interested in helping the establishment restabilize the image they were comfortable black people emulating, black guys emulating. Okay, you don't want black dudes as the maverick. And plus, we only pay lip service to the maverick because it's a useful promotional image. We don't really support mavericks, but we'll support the image of one as long as we can control or we can collaborate on what it is you're doing. But that's not a question for everyone, Questy. Not everybody gives a shit. Not everybody has any ambition other than to be famous, make great music and whatever. And I don't hold them responsible for anything that I feel responsible for. But for me, I understood that I was not going to be yet the next cog in a machine, that determines how people are to behave, to respond, what parts of themselves are acceptable, what parts are unacceptable, and what the establishment is comfortable embracing you as. I felt like I had many ancestors saying, you don't have to do that. We did that. We were not happy. This is why we're pushing you, you stubborn asshole. This is why we've made you so stubborn, because it's imperative that now, as you have a chance to turn this wheel, you must turn this wheel, because what we do is of consequence. You don't know the people born. The people might not even be born who you're setting up their life for, but you must do this, because I was enamored of the belief that if I didn't do it, the music that I've been able to contribute wouldn't possibly be made by anyone else in particular, but as that which came through my particular filter. And I'm grateful that you mentioned even D'Angelo, who I have to say that I'm extremely proud of. A few years ago, I was in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and a Swedish journalist reminded me that I said to him 25, 30 fucking years ago what I was going to do. And he said, my God, you've done it. You've done it. And he mentioned another artist. He said another artist, he mentioned D'Angelo. He said D'Angelo has also continued to resist caricaturing himself and just continuing to grow and expanding that thing. Because again, it's like, I don't care how many credentials you have or what kind of journalist you call yourself. You don't tell the music what it is. The music tells you. You don't say, oh, this isn't jazz. Fuck you. Jazz isn't dead. Nothing's dead. We're still, jazz is still writing chapters and verses. Rock is still saying, no, I'm this. hip hop, as you're clear, is still ever expanding. You don't say, no, that's not hip hop. That's not country to me. Well, it's not country to you. But country tells me what country is,
Hmm.
you know. And I understood that it was imperative that one of us had to get out and ahead of that thing this time and not feel the burden that Prince and Michael felt and others felt to maintain that other pillar that they represented. And, this is why I've also said to people as well, as much of a pain in the ass it was to come behind Michael and Prince, what a stroke of tremendous fortune to be as creatively inspired and curious as I have been blessed to be, and to be behind two bona fide fucking geniuses. These cats were for real. These guys were giants. And you were either going to shrink, like, coming after the Beatles, or you saw it as your license to just, to, there's no excuse not to just keep pushing this thing when you've come behind two groundbreaking lifetime achievement type dudes like Prince and Michael, so um, was that kind of clear to your question if I didn't
I,
veer off too much? But
I
Michael
get.
was involved in this because also by the time he inherited the Beatles catalog, another great irony is that the very music that woke me up in this life, the Beatles, when Michael got a hold of it,
Mhm.
that was the very music that kind of killed the battery charge on that life as well. Like, okay, boom, because from
Too
the
much
moment,
power.
well, he had too much. Well, who am I to say too much power? He had power, and then of course the game began when he got the catalog because Sony knew they wanted to go in business with him. So basically, whatever you want, Michael, fuck, you want this guy? Is this guy a pain in your ass? No problem. Because before he bought the Beatles catalog, the question they had to ask him was, okay, but Michael, can you replace his sales and yours? I don't know, but when he had that catalog and Sony's half, even in the 90s, was already over half a billion
Yeah.
a year. And forgetting that it wasn't just not forgetting it wasn't just the Beatles catalog. The Beatles songs were the jewel of that catalog. He also had all of Sly stuff, had all the Little Richard stuff. He had 100 country music #1 hits. That was a copiously fat, thick docket.
Yeah.
I mean, a packet, if you will. So from that point onwards, it was like, yeah, they gave him, he wasn't very comfortable with me.
Trust me, like Jimmy Jam gave me 7 hours. It was only supposed to be 1 hour, and Jimmy Jam gave me seven. So I will pull out every story, but I will be succinct and wrap this up because I'm also
I had a chance to work with Jelly Bean on this project. I did a song with Jelly Bean.
really.
Yeah.
Ah,
This song,
yeah.
I can't remember what is his name. Walk on is his name. He approached me last year and said he wanted me to participate with him if I would. I told him, look, just on principle alone, you guys were such a huge part of, my situation and the time
Hmm.
and various projects you guys worked on. So I said, sure. So basically, we wound up collaborating on this piece, and it was really cool because it was also the very last session of Ronnie Drayton because I
Ronnie
was gonna
Drayton's on this.
yeah, I was gonna play the guitar solo.
Ah,
And then
see, I don't have
um,
liner notes, so thus, damn, that's crazy.
yeah, we'll get you whatever you need. There's a gentleman named Oscar Derek Brown. He was a very, very good friend of Ronnie's. And so
Hmm.
basically when he told Ronnie that I was uh what I was doing, Ronnie said, oh, I want to play the solo. And when I heard, I was like, please, please, I will be honored. So it was apparently the last thing that he kind of did professionally that we were aware of. And I feel blessed to have participate with him because he's definitely one of the unsung heroes of the time I was coming through with his work with like Vernon and the Black Rock Coalition and all of that.
Yes, the legendary Ronnie Drayton. By the way, yeah, I didn't even get to this new album, but literally like fucking nice things, Camden Town, selfish.
Yeah,
Like those are my that's my shit, man. I
thank you, man.
I love it to death. I'm gonna wrap it up. I do have a slight question.
Let me
If
let me let me let me finish along this point, if
yes,
it's
well
okay,
that's the thing I want you to continue.
because because admonishment about being careful of meeting your heroes. Um, Bruce Springsteen has been like a big brother to me. Prince is still, I'm still close to him. And Miles played a pivotal role in my situation. Michael wasn't just one of those situations. It was just one of those things where, but
He was
I want to make
competitive.
this,
I get
I
it.
want to make this clear. Not only was he competitive, but in a perfect world, he would have seen me as like a gold, like, okay, I'm gonna show this motherfucker, right? And we'd have done that Beatles Stones Who thing where we just kept trying to top each other,
I would have been here for it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I would have been
But
here for it.
by that time he was maybe just tired, like, look, whatever. Okay. But the point I'm trying to make is this. He didn't owe me a damn thing. His life had provided for my life exactly what it was meant to provide. And there's also a very, very good chance that by getting in my way, he might have spared me his fate.
You literally just answered the question that I was going to ask
Yes. He might have saved my life in getting in front of me, and it might have
inadvertently.
also given me more longevity. Because I was even asked earlier in an interview, your voice, you still sound the same as 4 years ago, and how compared to whatever. And I said, but the truth is, they didn't burn me out. They didn't have a chance to burn me out. And I said, so many of my colleagues were just burned out, and it was just doing what they could to keep up with it. And when Whitney lost her voice at the end, I was so moved because I realized, singers don't mature until their 40s anyway. They look
Hmm.
after themselves even moderately well. But
Hmm.
I realized she hadn't lost her voice. With the sound of what you were hearing was a woman who had lost her heart because she was all heart. And the voice is just a conduit. It's just an amp. It's not the guitar. The guitar is the guitar. The voice is the amp. If your guitar is fucked, the strings are broken, your heart is broken, and you don't really want to be doing that anymore, obviously it's going to show in what comes through you, what comes out of you. And I felt that was the thing, was she wasn't just trying to destroy her voice. She was trying to destroy that life that held her in bondage and just became too much. And from our Native American heritage, we don't believe in death anyway, the way it's taught in the West. And so, she wasn't obliged to be with us raggedy motherfuckers 1 minute past realizing she had done what she had come to do. She had blessed the souls and the lives. I just saw her movie. I had on the carousel for 2 years, Questy. And I just because I had her and Aretha's life stories on the to watch list because I knew those lives reverberated so close to my own that I have to be ready and prepared psychologically to digest those stories because those stories are my stories as well. So, I had forgotten how many like just groundbreaking records Whitney had, broken and
Hmm.
just like wow. But you know, it's the same with Prince. You do what you come to do, and sometimes spirit says, I will not let you be abused 1 second longer. Because a life is easy to replace. A soul is a little harder. So you know what I'm saying to you? So I feel like those were taken from us to preserve what they were and for further service because the angels recycle.
Hmm.
It's like only 12 of these motherfuckers, and they play all the roles that are necessary to play, as many roles as needed, like a traveling Shakespearean troupe, where this time you're the dad, next time I'm the papa. Okay, but we all travel together because we all know each other and we all trust each other to play these roles for us. So I have no doubt that me and Michael were very, very, very close, and that's perhaps why he fucked my shit up because it was in so doing he spared my life, and I'm able now to have this conversation in 2024 with you, another person whose life has been greatly touched by the magic those geniuses laid down. I also am happy to hear that I had some influence because when you guys first came through, it was same with Erica. You're not always sure if it's your vanity or your pride, but sometimes you can feel like when your spirit is a part of somebody else, it doesn't have to be anything specific. It's just the vibe. And you go like, yeah, I think these guys might have been listening to my records, you know what I mean? And so
You think?
it's always reassuring when you find out that yes, there is a family, and we, like I said before, we do travel together and we perform the works and the miracles that we're here to perform, and we pack up the caravan and we move on to the next performance.